pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for a moment of silence. Thank you very much. Would you please silence all takers, cell phones, and electronic devices? Item number 2, citizen concerns. Do we have any citizens who would like to speak on something that's not already on the agenda? Hearing none for the moment, I will move approval of today's agenda.
Second.
Motion by DeWitt, second by Radig. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed say nay. Passes 5-0. Items 4 through 6 constitute a consent agenda of routine action items to be considered by one motion. Items pass unanimously unless a separate vote is requested by a board member. Item 4 is approval of the minutes of the October 23rd, 2018 meeting. Item 5, approval of claims. Item 6A, human resources, approval of memorandum of personnel transactions. B, authorization to initiate hiring process. And C, approval of retiree request to remain on county dental insurance plan. I move approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion by DeWitt, second by Radig. Questions on the consent agenda? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. Passes 5-0. Item 7, human resources, presentation of an award certificate to Dawn Norton. Did she come down? Oh. Certificate of award for 4 hours of paid time off awarded to Dawn Norton for a generous donation of 6 gallons of blood. Oh, wow. Very good, very good. Wait.
A round of applause.
If Woodbury had a color, she would bleed that color. We are just a little bit early for the 4:40 and 4:45 set times. Can we get Mark Nera up here for secondary roads? Consider award of project number 133.
On October 16th, the Iowa DOT bid our Parent 133 project in Ames. This was to let a Hancock Avenue bridge near the intersection of 200th Street and Hancock Avenue. The low bid on the project was from Dixon Construction of Correctionville, Iowa for $567,393.30. We've analyzed the bids and recommend award of the project.
I'll move the recommendation.
Second.
Motion by Radig, second by Taylor. Any further questions for Mr. Nera? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. Passes 5-0.
I'm guessing she forgot her bids, and that's why Karen isn't sitting there right now.
Might be.
It's about 35, isn't it? Okay, I guess we got 5 minutes to get them. Any new sketch comedy, you know?
Not as quick on my feet as some people are. Ben's got bid tabulations to pass around. So. This bridge U51 is on 320th Street, north and east of Hornick. It serves an area that's caught between the West Fork of the Little Sioux River and Wolf Creek. This bridge has been closed since 2015, and we're now headed for replacement of the structure. First bid is from Christensen Brothers of Cherokee, Iowa. Bid bond is included. Total bid price, $616,882.90. 616-882-90. Next bid is from Graves Construction of Spencer, Iowa. DOT bid bonds included. Total bid price, $475,343.66. 475-343.66. The final bid is from Dixon Construction of Correctionville, Iowa. Bid bond is included. Total bid price, $483,812.40. Can I see that? No, I don't see that. Just to see if I spot any errors that we make avoid. It's close, but I don't see any key items that appear to have an error thrown in them. I think we can recommend award to Graves Construction, Spencer, Iowa.
I will move the award to Graves Construction of Spencer, Iowa in the amount of $475,343.66.
Second.
Motion by Radig, second by Taylor to approve the bid. Further questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Passes 5-0.
That was a good price, folks. Both of those two lower bids were. So,
All right.
better prices than we've been seeing the last few years. So maybe we're starting to swing back toward prices we saw a couple of years back. So
And when will that start?
once we have the contract signed, they can start anytime.
Okay.
The ridge is already closed to through traffic, so there's no reason that they couldn't start and work on it through the winter. It's really up to the contractor. Late start date, I believe, is April 1st of 2019. So
Since we have a minute, are they going to work on that bridge on Correctionville Road or 150th just north of Lawton through the
they're
winter?
already started there. They've removed the old structure. We ran into a couple of abutment footings that needed to be taken out. That's a little bit of extra work there. They're hoping to have that bridge deck poured before winter. So,
Wow.
Dixon is in and working actively on that one.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
We are at a 4:40 set time. I am bringing forth a public hearing and first reading of a resolution to designate that portion of county highways upon which all-terrain vehicles and utility vehicles may be operated during a specified period, to specify said period and to establish regulations regarding such operations. Initially, this is a meeting to gauge public interest, to see what we have pro and con, what the initial, we've got quite a substantial list here. I don't plan on reading it all, but in a nutshell, I'm advocating for 18 years of age and older. You must be licensed. The vehicle must be registered with the DNR at minimum. You will have liability insurance, abide by all traffic laws, and other items of, speed, safety, those kind of things. At this point, I will open it up for the rest of the board for discussion or questions.
I just want to hear what they say.
What's that?
I just want to hear what the public has to say.
Mr. Taylor, do you have something?
No, I'm good.
Mr. Reddick?
Same sentiment.
Do we have anybody, let's start with and in the spirit of keeping this a short meeting, if at all possible, I would like to start with those that are in favor and those that have any petitions they would like to submit for or against and such like that. Do we have anybody that would like to begin in favor of this ordinance, potential ordinance? Sir, come up to the podium and identify yourself and address, please.
What's going on, Kenny?
Gentlemen, I'm Larry Guthridge. I live north of Mobile, 2864 110th Street. That's a Kingsley address, but I am Woodbury County. With my sons, I operate a 3,000 head permitted feedlot. Our farming operation is scattered out over 4 or 5 miles. We've been running ATVs and four-wheelers for years, up and down the county roads, under the pretense that they are implements. I'm all in favor of, regulating these things, permitting them. I have no problem with that, following all the safety things. I just, I don't want to be infringed on as far as, ag use. And I don't think what you're talking about is going to do that.
That's not the intention.
No. But one further thing is, we do some trail riding. I would suggest that maybe the county put in a little, a sticker or license plate or something for them, and maybe Woodbury County could develop a trail system of our own. I think, number one, from Sioux City to the Monona County line along the Missouri River would be a good starting spot, but that's just my comment.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Don Gross from Bronson, Iowa. I'm in favor of legalizing them. I'm an avid ATV rider in a lot of states. All my ATVs are registered in South Dakota, in the state of South Dakota. We've go trail riding there, Missouri, Minnesota, all over the place. South Dakota, one thing that they do with theirs up there is you're required to have a rear view mirror and a horn by code. Other than that, they don't really license plate light because they put plates on them. I have talked to a lot of my friends out in the area. If you would like, I had 279 signatures of people that are in favor of it that could not make the meeting tonight. If I could, give you, if you guys would accept these. Or...
Yeah, we move to receive those.
Second. Motion by Radig, second by DeWitt to receive petition. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay.
How many did you say, sir?
There's 279 signatures on there. Some of they're ATV riders or non-ATV riders. On the petition, I print their name, sign your name, put phone number. If you guys want to call them to say, hey, did you sign this? That's good. Are you 18? They're all 18 and above, and if they're ATV rider or not an ATV rider. And there's probably more non-ATV riders on that list than there is actually ATV riders.
Sure.
Could I ask, in your survey, was there a split on ATV and UTV?
No, they're all about the same. I mean, ATVs, there's a lot of ATVs still out there, don't get me wrong. A lot of people are moving forward more to the UTVs. In fact, I own both, you know. So,
Otherwise known as side-by-sides,
yeah, the UTVs side by sides, yeah.
more with a small box on them.
But that's all I got.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else?
I'm Tag Foreman. I'm part owner with Sioux City Yamaha Can-Am and kind of representing a few of the dealers in the area. The biggest thing is, you know, there's a lot of farm and ag usage for them as well, and that's where the bulk of those people come in that, you know, maybe would like to see them legalized, just like Mr. Guthridge said. But, you know, not just ag, there's construction guys and some different things, electrical people that are out in the field have those machines. You know, we have several manure guys that, you know, pump the manure and stuff like that. They're constantly up and down. You know, they go underneath the pretense that they're kind of exempt, but it would be nice for them guys to know that they are legal in whatever county they're in. You know, a lot of cities have gone around and gotten city ordinances, you know, Lamar's, Orange City, Sioux Center for counties north. I think South Sioux is legal, if I'm not mistaken. You know, we're bordered by South Dakota, which the entire state is legal for ATVs and side-by-sides. So, you know, be standing over here illegal and look across the river and watch them all riding. You know, so it just kind of goes to that pretense. But I think a lot of people think they hear that they're going to be opened up on the gravel roads. They instantly think, here comes the racetrack. You know, they're going to be buzzing all over. It just hasn't happened. I've talked to some people in Carroll County and Des Moines and that area there too. They've actually probably seen less issues with people doing things illegally since they've legalized it. You know, people have a point to respect the law once it's in place. So I'm in favor.
Any questions for Mr. Foreman? Thanks, Ted.
Thank you.
Mr. Sheriff.
Dave Drew, Sheriff. From our perspective, or I'll just say my perspective, it might make our job a lot easier if it passes. We have noted over the years that farmers use them, and I don't think any of our deputies bothered them. I would hope not. I understood the role. And for those that drive them, before Bronson, I'll use Bronson as an example. I was glad to see them pass it. They all were driving them. And, you know, nobody wants to continually bother. I mean, even though there wasn't an ordinance, we were glad to see it happen because it just made our job a little bit easier instead of getting tied up on four-wheelers in a town. So most of the rural towns have an ordinance that has passed it. I've never bought into the safety issue because, you know, you can get guys on motorcycles, and I'm a motorcycle guy, but you can get guys on motorcycles that drive like idiots. So it's owner responsibility, and I don't really see any issue for us. I think it actually makes our job a little bit easier, and most people I've run into are just going to and from.
I would think most of your deputies would recognize different guys on UTVs, side-by-sides, whatever, out in the county, knowing that they're ag anyway, or probably ag exempt, so that's...
Yeah, I haven't seen that issue, but like I said, from our perspective, I think it would make sense. We just don't need to constantly get involved in it. I mean, accidents can happen, and but that's the danger of driving anything such as a motorcycle, UTV, all those things. But I don't see it as a big issue for us.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Sir.
I have a question for the sheriff, if that's okay. So my question is about enforcement. When I've been contacted by people in support of this, they typically say, I have one of these, I've broken the rules for so many years, I drive right by deputies and laugh and wave and nothing ever happens. So I guess two questions. One is, has your office actually spent time dealing with enforcing violations, or has you just decided it's not worth it? And secondly, how would this, how is the board sure that this would be enforced if it was passed?
Well, I think if you pass an ordinance, now you have some rules and regulations that maybe have a little teeth. I'm not saying that the other law didn't. It's kind of like fireworks. You know, do we really like the fireworks law? You know, it's 4th of July, you get calls. Is it a priority? Not really. And people that would drive by. I mean, for me, when I was patrolling, I really didn't care. For other guys, that might have been a big thing. It's each individual discretion, but I think if you have a law, you pass an ordinance that might have a little bit more things in it. I think now that you're looking to you have to be a licensed operator, insurance, you know, you may want to do, as that gentleman said, a county tag on it so it was identifiable. At least one thing, the county could collect a little money, but more than anything, it does help to register it. And so those things would help. And I think that you could stop, but you really just can't stop somebody just to stop them. Now, you could if they weren't driving from their property to another property. But, you know, I get farmers, they're in a hurry. And if they have to take that road a little bit to come over, I've never bothered one. It's just not, most of us didn't, but could have been something. Does that help, Matthew?
Yeah.
Anybody?
Thank you. Sir?
My name is Dennis Taylor. I live in Sioux City. I guess most of my questions or answers would be a little redundant from what they've already spoke about, but one of the main things I see is an added revenue to our county by having these vehicles. South Dakota's had it for a number of years. The only thing they're not allowed to drive on are the two interstates, being 29 and 90, throughout the entire state. They basically ask for the same safety items that vehicles have, and doesn't seem to be a problem to them. Plus, it brings more benefits, and private industry being ATV park or UTV park in the area might be opened up, and we've got a lot of hills, a lot of areas that can be brought to our county. So that's basically it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. To Mr. Taylor's point, he's talking about a revenue stream. I did ask the county treasurer, and to register one of the machines would be a sticker similar to snowmobile or boat would be, I believe, $17.75. Of that, $1.25 would go to the county through the DNR. There would be an $11.50 title fee and also 7% sales tax revenue. Sergeant Bluff has implemented a tag for Sergeant Bluff, and I don't remember the exact numbers. I think it's like $25, $40, and $50 respective to 1, 2, and 3-year tags, which is a better revenue stream than the $1.25 that the county would receive back from the DNR. I'm still entertaining that with our county attorney and Mr. Woodman down here to see what legality or right, wrong, or what we could or cannot do on that situation. Then comes a question from the police chief and Sergeant Bluff that would we need any language between the city of Sergeant Bluff and county residents, and in that county residents may be able to drive into Sergeant Bluff as long as the vehicles are registered. So I think we still have some groundwork to do, some answers to get or opinions to get, at least from our county attorney's office. So understand there's things that other counties have done. 42 counties have this already. Of the 42 that have it, ATVs legalized for secondary roads, 6 of them are resolutions and not ordinances. To several points, the sheriff, for one thing, an ordinance gives the county a little more teeth as far as enforcement and so forth. But there's a couple things that most other counties do that I want to question to get a little more information on. For example, carrying firearms. If there's a strict DNR thing against that, then it is what it is. But I'm one of those that thinks as long as you got a permit to carry that, and I'm certainly not in favor of road hunting, ditch hunting, whatever you'd like to call it, but like I said, this is just an opening dialogue on who's for and against. Kind of gauge the public input here, but do we have, I mean, everybody that's spoken here obviously is for. Do we have anybody in the room that is against, by a show of hands? Sure.
I'm Mark Harrison from Lawton, and I just want to say the fuel savings alone from people going visiting one another, or farmers going into town getting for dinner, for lunch and supper, it's just be tremendous compared to getting.
Sir, can you move the microphone?
Hopping into a 6 or 8 cylinder vehicle compared to, 2 or 3, whatever the UTVs have. The savings would be tremendous too.
Thank you. Now, by a show of hands, do we have anybody opposed to what we're discussing here today? I see none. In light of the fact that we've gotten 279 signatures, I would move to, would it be prudent to move for a second public hearing, say in 2 weeks, Mr. Gill?
Well, do you need to have a second, you just move a second?
We don't have the,
You move the first reading and then you have the second reading next week.
we don't have our language finalized yet as far as what we're after.
Well, in the resolution, it says public hearing and first reading, so we'd have to come up with the resolution before that, then is what you're suggesting.
Well,
But Pat has something.
procedurally, so we've had the public hearing, there should be a vote to close the public hearing. And then the board could approve the first reading tonight. I know that we don't have the language finalized yet, but we could come back either next week or some point down the road for the second reading and have the kind of final draft of the language at that point. But I think it would be appropriate if the board is looking to move forward to approve the first reading so that it keeps the ball moving on it.
Okay.
Move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion by Taylor, second by Raddick to close the public hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Passes 5-0.
I'd move the first reading of the county ordinance.
Motion by Taylor, second by DeWitt to move the first reading of the ordinance. Further questions?
Mr. Chair,
Sir.
is there any thought from anyone on the range of the fine being 65 to 625? Do we want it that?
I hate high fines. I can just tell you that. That becomes very problematic. I'm not sure it's a great benefit. Just my own opinion. That's an opinion, not anything based on anything.
What is the average fine for something like this in other counties that have similar laws? So that would be the.
I've got quite a pile of information in here. It seems to be fairly straight across the board. In previous discussions with our county engineer, I think he would like some teeth in it as for those that do have mayhem on the brain, if you will. I'm not opposed to that, but my question is, sheriff's office ought to be really mean to them if they're caught doing something stupid. But
I just bring it up because.
When you get a ticket, you have to call to find out the fine. You seen how high those fines are?
Well, and it says violation of this ordinance. It doesn't say which part of the ordinance. I mean, I think your fines would be based on what you did wrong. Not just say,
Yeah, just keep
any violation is gonna cost you this much.
If we could just be kept abreast on how some of that language is going to be written up, we could maybe, that'd be really good for us.
yeah, absolutely. So does that,
Well, yeah.
do you have a recommendation?
I would prefer it be narrowed, simply because it seems, I'm not sure which part of this would qualify for the 625 and which would qualify for the 65, or if the sheriff will be nice and just fine everyone 65. But with issues of enforcement in the past, just generally, I don't think there's any other way to enforce this other than a stable expectation there.
Dan Heisel.
Sir?
Conservation. I'd like to be involved in what you set that fine at, because parks, the roads in the parks are considered county roads. And if we have issues, I want some teeth in it as well. Because currently we do not allow UTV, ATVs in the county parks, in the campgrounds, unless they have a handicap sticker. That gets rid of the joyriding. So I do have a concern with that. And if they're tearing up the parks, cutting across the parks, cutting up the roads, I want some teeth in the fine.
Okay.
Do you have a recommendation then?
Just started thinking of that when you were talking about this, so that's why I'd like to come back with something I'd be willing to work
Right, and it's,
with the sheriff, and let's find a middle road.
I mean, it seems like you'd have different levels of violation of the ordinance. You might have someone who doesn't have the registration or the sticker, and to me, that would be a different sort of violation than someone's on the end of the spectrum towards more like reckless driving sort of thing. So I think there's a way that we can differentiate that.
Maybe do a schedule of fines.
Something along those lines, and we definitely should look at other counties and see what they've done.
I would think you'd want it if it was damage to the roads or to conservation parks, that you'd want to measure it with the damage that was done. Right, if you have that it could only be, $65 to $100, and yet there was $600 worth of damage or more that was done, I think you would want to have some kind of language along those lines, right?
And I think we need to have some language that's a little bit county properties are not included in this. The board may not be aware, but we have had a lot of trouble up in our railroad gravel pit with trespassers who come in there, ride ATVs, motorcycles up and down the piles. Since those piles are constantly being loaded and changing, our concern is that, they rode up and over a pile one week. The next week, that's now a vertical face. They can't ride on it anymore. I want to be sure this applies only to roads, and that we have something in there that prohibits county properties. Dan bringing up the parks was just one of the types of properties that we own. We do have some people that treat our gravel pits as if they're a park and a trail as well. It may be a useful place to have some of that language on allowable use, that this does not include county properties such as gravel pits, so that we keep them out of there. And again, this is one, our departmental concerns are all based on safety, particularly in the gravel pits. This is a place where we do have unsafe conditions because they are constantly changing.
Hold on, Mark. An ordinance can be amended at a later date to accommodate some of these things anyway, correct?
Well, this is first reading, so anything.
Assuming we have an ordinance in place, we could amend it for fines and restrictions on areas and such?
It could be done. You have to go through all the public hearing and readings again, so I think it's something that we should spend some time thinking about now, and try to get it right the first time, or at least.
No, I agree. I just want to make sure that.
Yeah, and I mean, a year or two down the road, if things need to be adjusted, that's always a possibility.
Okay.
As well.
And to Mark's point, I did have a guy stop me when I was getting gas here a week and a half ago, and he asked me about the potential ordinance. And he says, well, I'm one of those rare guys I want it for me, but not for everybody else. And he alluded to the gravel pile type thing that you're talking about, because he's concerned about that. And yet, and this is not to try and sway your opinion, but I talked to the sheriff from Union County, and he said they have had 0 problems. And in fact, and South Dakota being a little different setup, because they're plated over there and not, they're plated by the state. But he has had 0 issues, and he hopes it never goes away over there.
Yeah.
But.
Well, I think the roads, which are allowed by law, and then county properties like gravel pits, are 2 entirely different types of operations.
I would agree with that.
And, we now have no trespassing signs up at our gravel pits. We now have them gated in an attempt to keep that off. Those gates and signs have been vandalized in recent weeks. you know, when we're looking at these type operations, it might be something where we could have something so that the sheriff's department has something they can prosecute these people with when they do enter into those properties.
And I have no problem with that, so.
I hadn't thought about it until we talked about parks.
No, and I don't think anybody in the room wants to go haphazard into this. I'd like to get it right the first time, so we can visit other important issues, but.
Well, I just want to state, most of the riders are responsible. Just though, that one bad apple, I don't want them to cause a problem. So I'll do some research with the counties that have had those ordinances passed and how they handle it in the parks. And if they have ordinances and fines, then I can get that to Joshua. And
One could say that 98% of the conservation directors are good guys and 1% could be bad, right?
yeah, and they're all on the eastern side of the state.
Amen to that.
Mr. Groves.
One thing South Dakota did, which might solve a lot of this too, is South Dakota used to make it, you could ride the road ditches and stuff like that. Once they legalized the machines on the roadway, it was illegal to ride on any county right-of-ways. So, I mean, that might solve, if you put that in there, you know, that your county, so that would solve the going on gravel pits, going on railroad tracks, going abandoned stuff like that.
It'd probably keep the safety factor better too, because tall weeds and ditches and.
Yep. Yep. That's one thing South Dakota did, is they made it illegal to ride down ditches now.
Okay.
So.
I don't know that we want to get into a unique hybrid where someone passing from Monona County into Woodbury County is baffled on what our laws are, but at the same time, I'd like to see some continuity and consistency between the counties that are doing this, so. Remind me, sir.
I don't think it needs to really address the gravel piles if the unlawful operations in the ordinance is written apply to roadways. So, but I do have a question on who is referred to as the commission, and as far as unlawful operations, it says no to any public land, ice, or snow, etc., as signed or appointed by the commission. Is that DOT? Is that signage from some state agency?
I'm honestly vague on that too. I'm just using this from Sac County for a template to kind of start with.
I thought it was from an overall county engineers.
Yeah. The Iowa County Engineers Association did the draft ordinance. And I'm not sure what they're referring to as commission either, unless they were trying to refer to the county conservation commissions. But that would seem inconsistent with that area.
It might be the DNR commission who sets their ordinances, so that's the only commission that other DOT, DNR has.
Does that help?
Yeah.
I mean, okay.
I think on Mark's issue about the gravel pit, if it has signs, no trespassing, that makes it simple. You just get a ticket for no trespassing, so.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And when they were talking about damaging stuff, the criminal mischief laws still apply, whether you're on a vehicle or on foot, that don't matter. But it looks to me like we have a little more homework to do. I would suggest we pass this first reading if that's what we're gonna do, and then take a couple of weeks to iron out some of the things, and then get it ready to go.
Yeah, I'd be looking for input from other board members, conservation, sheriff's office, county engineer, various things like that, but I think we've got at least a reasonable amount of information to roll with here.
I'd like to see the fines scheduled and apply to certain infractions, so it takes the subjectivity out of it. As long as we can do that going forward, that's, for the next couple weeks, we can make those changes, that's fine.
Okay. Mr. Gill, where are we at the moment? I lost track.
You have a motion to pass the first reading.
We have not voted yet.
You have not voted.
Do we have any further comments or questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Passes 5-0. We are done with that, correct?
You are.
Very good. Thank you very much for those attending. and especially the sheriff. It's Thank you, folks. Item 9, building services.
Kenny Schmitz, Building Services Director. Earlier this afternoon, Woodbury County Building Services, Woodbury County Conservation, and CMB Architects opened bids for the Dorothy Pico Nature Center HVAC and roof improvement project. 3 bids were received as follows: Global Engineering and Construction.
Who is that, Kenny?
Global Engineering and Construction. They included their security bid bond and the Woodbury County Quality Assurance document. Their base bid was $648,900. Alternate number 1 is a deduct of $5,450. That's $648,900 with a deduct of $5,450. The second bid was from L&L Builders. They included the bid bond security and the quality assurance questionnaire. Their base bid was $678,160. That's $678,160 with an alternate number 1 deduct of $5,500. That's $5,500. Nelson Construction submitted their bid. They had the bid bond security and the quality assurance questionnaire. Their base bid was $667,200. That's $667,200 with an alternate number 1 add of $5,500. Bids came in favorably. Our original estimates were $722,436, and I'd ask the board to receive the bids today.
I'll move to receive.
Second. Motion by Radig, second by DeWitt to receive bids. Any further questions for Kenny? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Passes 5-0.
Thank you.
We're all good on that, right? Item 11 is Board of Supervisors updated the closed captioning and live streaming of county meetings. I have been in discussion with County Attorney P.J. Jennings and Assistant County Attorney Joshua Woodman on this issue. I do intend to meet tomorrow at 9 a.m. with Dr. Gossman from the Sioux City School System and one of the members of the Sioux City City Council and City Administration. At the moment his name escapes me, but we're going to discuss that, what they do. But in kind of opening this situation up, we plan to. It's kind of a multifaceted issue here. The county attorney wants to further investigate what our action should be. The city and the school board actually transmits, broadcasts their meetings live to cable and or television stream, which is, as I understand it, required Mr. Woodman to have closed captioning on it as it goes out. And there is a difference where we stream directly to the internet, where it does not need to be closed captioned from the get-go. So none of this means that something couldn't change in the future, but for the time being, I'm going to be, like I said, I'm going to be talking with the school board and a member of the city administration staff tomorrow to see what some of the avenues might be for that.
You guys plan on having John Malloy there at all?
Wasn't planned, no. It's just kind of initial, see what's going on and what the city and the school board have in mind, because they're not doing the same. Mr. Woodman is the one that seemed to uncover the difference between internet streaming and going straight to television and or cable. So we want to make sure that we're all.
My personal reading of the law would suggest that we actually are almost required to have some form of translation here, whether a sign language interpreter or even a captioning system here in the live meeting as well. If somebody were to come to a live meeting and not be able to hear or understand what we're saying, we're also liable for that.
Well, we need to understand as well that going out to YouTube is well above and beyond what's required by code. So,
but I think what's required by ADA is that we are captioned or translated into ASL right now as we're talking. So everything I just said was supposed to be translated to sign language or captioning right now. If you read ADA, I think, and you guys are the legal team, you can tell me I'm wrong, but that's my understanding of it. And I don't think any government body really does that. I know political bodies do, and I know that some legislatures do in the country, but if you really look at it.
My understanding was that it had to be available if somebody requested it, because you have to be able to make some accommodations for somebody. I think they would have to request it.
But that's like saying we'd help somebody up the stairs with a wheelchair if requested. You know, that's why you had to put the elevator in. So I think.
Yeah, but that you couldn't just say, okay, we won't have something there, and then you can't build one as they get there.
Right. What might be better is to have some sort of either a screen up behind us or a screen down here that live captions as we speak. I think you could put something like that in with the software for around $5,000, and then you upload that to YouTube and it's captioned already right on the screen. Because it's captioned behind us or in front of us, and I think that'd be a cheap fix for all three government bodies, and then that way when somebody comes to a meeting, you're not forced to find an interpreter.
We're not going to suspend board meetings until that's happened, are we?
Vacation.
I'm just
Vacation.
So just so I'm clear, Joshua, you mentioned a distinction with streaming to internet as not having the same requirements as direct to cable?
Correct. And as Rocky mentioned as part of his comments, it's something that we're continuing to do research on. But it does seem that there's a distinction between the live streaming that only goes out to the internet versus if it's live on television. It's clear that there's a closed captioning requirement for television, cable, and then the code sections state that if closed caption is required for the public, for the television, then it's required when it goes live streaming out on the internet. So I think we're in a little bit different position than the city and the school board in that regard, since the board meetings are not on TV. But there's also several different statutes that are in play here. So while you may be okay under the ADA, when I spoke with PJ earlier today on this issue, he indicated that he was still looking at some of the state requirements. And to Keith's question or his comments, I'm not sure that we've looked closely at what's required actually in the meeting live as far as an ASL interpreter or something like that. So that's something that we can look at as well. I'm not sure that we have looked at that part of it up to this point.
I don't know if you can plan for every contingency that's out there either. You could have somebody who's both blind and deaf and then go, you know, I think the upshot, and I appreciate the update, is that we can, I think it's the thing that some of us were nervous about, and it's been put to bed, we can contain the meetings, and people can see that with captioning on YouTube, that record is there, which is very helpful. So I think that's a good thing, and I'm appreciative that you're meeting with the schools and the city, and it'd be a very good opportunity to collaborate and, because I know the school district did take theirs down based on that very complaint or idea of one, so.
I'm not, certainly nothing will be settled tomorrow, but at least it'll be discussed and see what, going forward, what might change, or maybe they'll change their ways. Who knows? Maybe we'll change our ways. I don't know. I'm not, like I said, I believe in the transparency. I just have to ask the question is, since we're doing more than code requires, we're doing our best.
How long does it take for our meeting to get archived after it's?
Like the same night or not?
It's available.
It's got closed captioning on it.
Right.
What, Michelle, and what is the current status of,
So prior to pulling the YouTube, we would have a memory card and the YouTube video. The YouTube video would be instantly, live streamed. The card is our backup, so we would put that on the U drive the next day, usually in the morning. So now with just the card, we're putting that on in the morning.
and but that is not, then there is not closed caption on that.
No.
Why wouldn't there be on, because if it's played on YouTube, then there is closed captioning, is that not?
Played on YouTube, you shut off the YouTube access. But all we're doing is recording it for the network drive.
The memory card is only kept internally in our system. If someone were to come in and ask to view that, then we would pull.
Could it be uploaded to YouTube?
Well, that's what I'm asking what the person,
Because
their status is now.
we had the follow-on information that YouTube does provide closed captioning, so it's copacetic to have that. It just isn't if it's live, because it's not able to.
Right, but the IT department disabled all that.
They re-enabled it after, is my understanding.
I couldn't hear you say that again.
They re-enabled the link to past YouTube meetings.
To past board meetings, but what is occurring currently has been disabled. It's not being uploaded to YouTube. It's being stored on the network drive, and it is not closed caption.
Before we started the live streaming, we took the memory card and we did upload that to YouTube for people to view. The closed captioning, I don't know how quickly that takes into effect on YouTube, but I know if you look at past meetings, there is a closed caption option, and I viewed through one, and it's hard for them to get names and things. Names are spelled wrong, city names are spelled wrong, but for the most part, the content is there. It's not, some of it's going to be misinterpreted no matter what if somebody's doing sign language.
But to your question, we are not doing that, uploading it to YouTube now.
Correct.
But we could restart that based on the guidance that it is acceptable because there is closed captioning now, correct?
I believe that's true.
Okay.
But we are not doing that.
Can you do that, please?
We have not been directed to do that.
I would have thought we'd keep doing that. I mean, if we can't stream live.
So who would you need to hear from in that?
The chairperson who.
Well, I had a chat with PJ this afternoon, one of several, but he would like at least another week or two, along with Mr. Woodman, to just cross our T's and dot our I's, is their thinking. Personally, I'm not opposed to putting it back on.
Yeah, and that was my understanding, I thought, from restoring the past meetings anyway, is because that capability was there, and that's where I thought you were directing them to go ahead with that.
Right, and I think the further research would be in regards to the live streaming aspect, but I think it's clear that the prior meetings, since they're not live, so there's a different set of rules for them. And YouTube, I'm not sure how soon it is, but they do have a process where the closed caption is adding, so.
Within hours.
Right.
From what
we wouldn't have a problem with uploading the recorded board meeting to YouTube. I think that the law's pretty clear on that.
That's where I think we should be.
So, Mr. Chairman, would you be good with that?
Let me talk to Mr. Jennings tomorrow, and we'll act accordingly. I'll already be in the area, so,
And then you talk with Pat?
yes.
Okay.
You'll always have to talk to Pat.
Well, I can't go a day with that.
All right.
All right.
All right. Item 12, reports on committee meetings. Sir.
I had a very, very full report. I left some of it. Maybe I'll share next week as well. But it was a special water quality meeting out in Pearson. This is the one that we authorized as a board, a couple of key city leaders and their clerk, as well as a representative from the DNR. I thought it was very encouraging. They have a voluntary program that looks to grant funding, help from the DNR that looks to water quality testing, some sustainability cover crops, and a lot of training opportunities, grant opportunities, funding. They've got a team. They held a public meeting, which is well attended as well. So they're going to continue with the program, and I'll report more as we go along. But I think it's a very good thing. They're proactive about, not reaching certain levels where there would be susceptibility health-wise, and so I commend them as a community for taking the initiative, and I'll share further reports as we go along.
Thank you. Anybody else? Round 2 of citizen concerns.
Kenny Schmitz, Building Services. I'd like to give the board an update on the LEC duct cleaning that you approved several weeks ago. The county spent around $30,000 to do return duct cleaning. The ducts were very, very dirty. In the first day, the contractor removed 150 pounds of dust. They were on site for about 7 days total. So I can tell you that they were even in worse shape than what we thought they had been. So.
Wow. That wasn't somebody that crawled up there and was instantly cremated or anything.
Could happen, but didn't.
That's the first time in 29 years they've cleaned them?
First time they've been cleaned, yes.
In 29 years.
Yes. So thank you for allowing us to do that.
Any other citizen concerns?
Patty Erickson-Putman, Social Services Coordinator for Sioux Rivers, Woodbury County. I've had some concerns lately and some calls regarding the misunderstanding of services provided by Siouxland Mental Health and reported cuts to their services. I spoke to and provided this to Mr. Radig back on July 24th, and these are the responses. Communication here is between me, Sheila Martin, Bev Zehner, and Joel Peterson of Siouxland Mental Health. The sheet, I'll pass that out. And then
You're gone.
So I've had this conversation, and I asked Joel Peterson if he would put together what the concerns were, because he had used a figure of $1.2 million publicly. Joel listed out on page 2 there, the back side of page 1. And you'll notice that their total on this sheet is $678,000 because they pulled out the Friendship House themselves and no longer included that in there. You'll see service area number 1. There were no changes made to the allocation block grant amounts for item A, B, C, D, and E. E was reduced, to $64,000 as the funding was to provide the addition of a full-time therapist available to provide assessment for individuals walking in or calling into the main office during normal hours of operation, Monday through Friday, 8 to 4:30. The position was funded at 75% of the cost for the first year because it was partial when the request for the position was made. The total amount was removed as the position and duties are reimbursable under Title 19 and/or private insurances. We have been informed this week, and that's back in July, that the dollars have been used to pay for portions of 2 full-time positions rather than the full-time position presented to the governance board. Item number 2, all fee for services is included in the contract as a maximum not to exceed amount. Siouxland Mental Health has not billed the maximum amount for the past 2 fiscal years, as persons receiving these services are primarily reimbursed through Title 19 and/or private insurance. The region pays for those individuals not covered by Title 19 and/or private insurances. The $30,000 was never received by Siouxland Mental Health as the expenses were never realized. Medications were also included in the contract as a maximum not to exceed amount. The $5,000 is not a reduction as the expenditures were never realized. Directed community peer support. Friendship House portion of the contract was reduced to $40,000 for a peer support specialist position, as the position is billable through the MCOs for billable hours. The $1,461.20 was reduced for the same reason and has been approved for annual cost to provide peer support services at the Assessment and Stabilization Center. The services for peer support, in addition to what the Friendship House provides, are to be provided in the community and not in a group-based site-specific location. The mental health court services were impacted by the initiation of the contracted medical care in the Woodbury County Jail. The contracted medical care for inmates included mental health services. As such, the services provided by the PA and therapists through Siouxland Mental Health were discontinued. The reduced amount reflects the dollars identified by Joel Peterson as costs no longer necessary within the mental health court program. The rural school therapy services, we made absolutely no changes in that. The Sioux City Community School District therapy services, no changes. The contract stipulates a maximum number of hours for therapy per week provided. The Assessment and Stabilization Center, the ASC was included in the FY18 budget at $500,000 with a one-time source of funds for the remaining portion if the billing and reimbursement processes were delayed. For FY19, the budget is again $500,000, but does not include the amount included in one-time funds as FY18. The region and Siouxland Mental Health need to continue working together with DHS, MCOs, and possible partnerships with local medical providers to continue the program. In that vein, we had met Sheila Martin, Bev Ziener, Joel Peterson, myself, Shane Walter, Aaron Haverdink had met at Unity Point with 2 gentlemen there, Lynn Wold and Chad Markham, and had our first meeting there back in July, I believe, the first part of August, to discuss that. But the good news is there, even with that cooperation, the Title 19 reimbursements have finally started to flow back through to the assessment center like we had always planned. They've received $47,000 in retroactive pay for services that they've provided. Siouxland Mental Health has been very persistent in that, and now that success is showing. We expect that to pick up tremendously because on the last submission by Siouxland Mental Health, 68% of those people up there were Title 19 eligible. So if we're looking at 68% of $1 million, being reimbursed by the MCOs, then we've got a good thing going. And we're finally starting to realize that stream of funds to take that off of the local dollars. So when people talk about how much Siouxland Mental Health has been cut, this is something that I worked out with them in July and spoke to them. I sent it to Bev. You can see from that front email there, I sent it to Bev, Sheila, and I've received no response to my communication at all. Good, bad, indifferent, whatever. But I wanted to go through step by step and clarify this because I think there's some inaccurate information out there that doesn't bode well for the services we currently provide. Do you have any questions?
I do want to clarify, though, when you talked with me about a month ago, I still kind of agree to disagree on the Friendship House funding cut because I clearly saw a difference in how Siouxland Mental Health was treated in trying to get funding for the Friendship House versus all the other providers, in requiring plans and specs and requiring different things. And then when they go to change to a different building site that would have been a huge savings in expenditures, it was like they were just had the rug pulled out from under them. And that would be, I think, a very accurate claim that they were cut that money from the Friendship House. Even if they're not going to say that now, they know that money was cut from them. And I guarantee if you talk to Kathy Roberts, she would have a very different vocal feeling about how she was treated.
Well, the expectations were for them as they were for others.
But they really weren't.
And, well...
And Jeremy was in the meetings
I don't
too.
want to get into an argument per se
Sure,
with it, but even the comparison of the blood bank building at a cost of $360,000 and no explanation of how the other $300,000 they wanted to be spent when it was requested, and I believe some of you discussed that at the governance board meetings, that you wanted plans on how, were there going to be walls moved, were there going to be, how are they going to use that money? And we never got that. So I just wanted to update you and have that there because I think that is an accurate, honest, objective, assessment of what's going on.
So Patty, they would say, and I know none of us can speak for one another, but they would take the 678,041, adding the 675,000 to get that 1.2.
To get
Is
at
that what?
1.2.
Okay.
Yeah. But even the 678,000 is, that's what I tried to go through here and show that that's not the case. The assessment center becoming Title 19 billable and successful there, that's a huge step. And they've been very persistent in that, and I called them and congratulated them and thanked them for that.
And I think that's one thing we can all agree on.
Yep,
that's a success, that those dollars are finally flowing, and that's something we can all wrap our arms around, right?
Regardless of who owns it, who operates it, that facility is going to be reimbursable because the state now has that process in place to do that. A promise cap, basically. A little late, but better late than never. So, I thank you for your time.
Oh, I'll move to receive this.
Second. Motion by Raddick, second by DeWitt to receive documents from Patty Erickson Putman. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed say nay. Passes 5-0. Do we have any further citizen concerns? Do we have any board concerns?
I got the email from Shane a little late on Friday about the resolution for voting on allowing Lyon County into the mental health region. So that'll be on next Tuesday.
For our board?
Yeah, we have to vote on it, so.
Anybody else? We are adjourned.